So you're considering buying a house, but maybe this is your first time and it can be a little overwhelming, even scary, and I completely understand that. Let me give you a few tips and tricks on some things to look for and ways to prepare when you're buying your first house so that we can take some of the fear out of this. At the end of the day, buying your first home is extremely exciting. That's a great place to be in life. And we don't want to add to it undue stress and unnecessary worry. So that's what I'm here for. Let me help you out. Number one, lock in a great realtor. Now, I want to remind you that when you are a first-time home buyer or a buyer in general, a realtor is not something that's going to cost you any money. The seller pays the commissions. And so it makes no sense not to have a great realtor by your side to help you navigate these waters because it's completely free to you. So when I say get a good realtor, I'm not saying find a friend of a friend who is a long lost cousin of a brother-in-law that just got the real estate license. Here's the key. Find somebody that you trust. Find somebody that after spending a little bit of time with them, they instill peace and confidence in you, because there are a lot of questions that are going to come up along the way, okay? Things like contracts and down payments and inspections and some construction questions, things like that that'll come along the way. And those are things that you want a qualified expert with the ability to communicate on your team to help you get through that, okay? Just because they know the information doesn't mean that they can explain it to you in a way that gives you peace of mind. You need to make sure that you have that. So whoever it is that you choose to work with, they should have decent industry knowledge working with buyers in your area in a single family residential space, but also they should be someone who can communicate effectively and doesn't speak over your head, right? We have a tendency as realtors to use a lot of jargon and industry lingo that unfortunately leaves our buyers in the dark and scratching their head. So you want to find somebody that knows how to communicate effectively to answer the questions that you have, and you will have a lot of questions. So find a good realtor that you gel with, that is someone that will answer your phone calls. That's such a big deal because when you are out there with questions or with concerns, and you get a realtor that says, hey, check with me on Monday morning because it's not normal business hours, fire that guy. I'm sorry, fire that guy, because you're gonna have questions, or you're gonna come across houses at 9 and 10 o'clock sometimes on a Friday night or a Saturday night, and you want somebody that's going to answer your calls. Now, at the same time, we want to be respectful of the realtor's family time and personal time. So with me, most of the time, I'm going to answer your call, but worst case scenario, I'm going to shoot you a text and I'm going to say, hey, I'm at a family event, I'm at a dinner, is it an emergency, or can I get back with you in a little bit? You never want to feel like you're on an island all alone. So make sure that you've got a real estate agent that's going to communicate with you. Number two, and this is vital, is get hooked up as quickly as possible with a good mortgage lender. So let me explain that. A lot of buyers feel like they want to go out and test the waters and check on houses and kind of find something that they like before they talk to a lender and get pre-qualified. Don't do that, because in a market like we're in right now, things can move kind of quickly. And if you go out and you find a house that you love and are ready to put in an offer, and there happens to be another offer on that house, there's a good chance that the listing agent is going to put a deadline as to when offers can come in so that the seller and the buyer can move forward. And if you're in a weekend, for example, and you don't already have your pre-qualification done, there's a really good chance that even a good lender is not going to be able to get you a pre-qualification letter, sometimes for 1 or 2 business days, which means if this is on a Saturday morning, you might not be able to get a pre-qualification letter until Tuesday, and you may end up losing out on that house. But let's say that that's not the case. You need to talk with a qualified mortgage lender as soon as possible to know exactly what you can and cannot buy. Worst thing is to go out there and fall in love with a house at, let's say, a $325,000 price point, only to speak with a lender and find out that you're only approved for $280,000 or $290,000. Interest rates are not what they were several months ago, and Zillow is horrible about quoting payments. Just throw that sucker out the window. They're going to tell you that your monthly payment on this house is going to be $1,800 when in fact it's almost $3,000 because they have you putting 20% down and are not including your taxes and are not including your insurance. So you really want to get with a qualified lender who can tell you what your down payment is going to be. They can tell you what your monthly payment is going to be. They can tell you that based on your income and your comfortable budget, this is where you need to be when it comes to purchasing a house. All of those things have to be done before you go out and start looking at houses, because it's only going to end poorly if you do it the other way around. I would really recommend that you go with the preferred lender of your realtor. And let me tell you why. The real estate agent has experience working with lenders in the market, not only individual mortgage lenders like the actual loan officer, but also the different companies. And a good realtor with experience in the market knows these are the guys that are going to get it done, and these are the guys that only talk a big game. I'll tell you, we had a buyer recently that I put with my preferred lender, and she wanted to stick with the lender that she was already working with, right? Wanted to dance with the person who brought her. The problem is this lender was making a lot of promises that we talked to her about and said, look, we're looking at the numbers. I don't think that's right. But this guy said, no, I know what I'm doing and I'm going to get this taken care of for you. We were about 4 days away from closing, and she called me in tears and said, I don't know what to do because this loan officer just called me and said, hey, we're not going to be able to use all the income that we thought we were going to use. And because of that, you no longer qualify for this price point. And get this, I'm leaving on vacation for 2 weeks. Good luck. That's basically what he said. It almost hung up on her and said, sorry, not my problem, even though he's the one that had made all the promises, and left for 2 weeks. And she said, Jimmy, I'm going to lose a house and I don't know what to do. By God's grace, we were able to get her with the other lender that my preferred lender that we had put her with originally. And it took about an extra 10 days. I had to really lean on the seller and renegotiate some things. And we finally got it done. But that's all because she didn't go with the preferred lender up front. So you want to go with the lender, in my opinion, that your realtor recommends. Maybe they'll be able to recommend a couple of them, and then you can see who you feel the most comfortable with. I'm not telling you not to shop. Don't shop. I'm not saying don't shop rates and closing costs. Those are things that you can definitely look around for. But I would say go with the recommendation that your realtor makes, because nobody gets paid if this doesn't go all the way to the closing table and you get the keys to your new house. And so it's in the best interest of everyone involved to get you there. So if your realtor says this is the one you want to go with, they're invested with you. And so really take that consideration to heart when they give that to you. So and then I would say, obviously, save up as much money as possible for your down payment, but don't let that be the reason that you aren't getting into the buyer's market. So let me explain that to you. The more money you have set aside for this purpose, obviously, the better. You want to go in with as much options as possible. The more money you can put down, the lower your monthly payment, those types of things. But a good lender is going to have options available for you in the way of down payment assistance programs. There's free money to be had out there in the way of grants. Sometimes that comes from a city or a county. More often than not, it's going to come at the state level. So for example, here in Texas, there's state money that has been allotted to get you into a home. At the end of the day, the government wants homeowners. You get into a home and you pay taxes, right? You're paying insurance, and that's money that goes into the economy. So they are incentivized to get you into the house, and they do that by way of down payment assistance. We have programs right now that my preferred lender is using that would get you up to 4% in free money from the state of Texas. So for example, if you're looking at a $250,000 house, that's actually $10,000 that you can use to put towards your down payment and your closing costs to get into the home. So obviously the more money you have, the better, but just because you don't have a ton of money setting aside, don't let that deter you from jumping into the market. And then lastly, I'll speak a little bit about your credit score. Again, same concept. We want that credit score to be as high as possible, but most lenders can get you qualified pretty easily at a 620 credit score. Now, they'll tell you that they can get it done at a 580, and I'm sure they can, but there's a lot of hoops to jump through to make that happen, and a 620 credit score is almost a walk in the park. So you want a 620 credit score, but for that down payment money that I was talking to you about, the down payment assistance, 650 is really where you want to be. So check your credit, monitor your credit, but I will also warn you, don't put a lot of stock in what you're seeing with apps like Credit Karma, for example. I don't know necessarily the reasoning behind it, but most of the time, the credit score they give you on those apps is going to be 15 to 25 points higher than what your actual credit score is when the credit bureaus are run. Some of the apps that you pay for, like directly with Experian or TransUnion, those are going to be a little more accurate. Sometimes your credit card companies are going to have some apps out there as well. I think CreditWise through Capital One is usually pretty good. So don't pay a lot of attention to that credit score, but do monitor your credit. Make sure you've got your credit score as high as possible. So there you go. Hopefully that answers some questions for you and will point you in the right direction. So again, number one, get a good quality realtor that you trust, that instills confidence and peace in you, that effectively communicates and answers the questions that you may have. Get a good a good mortgage lender to get your pre-qualification done before you start looking at houses. Number three, set aside as much money as possible for the down payment, but don't let the fact that you don't have a lot of money sitting aside deter you from moving forward. And then lastly, monitor your credit. Make sure that you get that credit score up as high as possible. 620 credit score is kind of the starting point, but a 650 credit score and you're golden. I really appreciate you watching the video. Hopefully this answered the questions that you may have, and I want you to have a blessed day.